Okay guys, we're gonna make some crab cakes today. I want to kind of show you that it's fun and it's easy and it's a really great dish to make when you are entertaining because it's impressive, yet it's easy to do and it's easy to do it beforehand, so it's kind of easy when you're entertaining to just have these crab cakes ready to go, and then you can kind of do whatever you want to do with them and then they're just there. So I have just some canned crab. You can find this in most higher-end grocery stores or seafood markets that are around. Or you can just order it online. Really, Amazon's the best place to get little things like that, so you don't have to go hunting around for it. You can just order it on Amazon. It should be about $15 to $20 per can. We're not trying to get the best crab out there. This is just some real decent. This is a super lump crab, which has to do with the size. And so go ahead and start by opening the can and so I'm going to go ahead and open these cans, and I'm going to let the crab kind of strain out a little bit, but I'm not trying to throw away any of the liquid, because all that liquid that's inside the can, and there's not much. The crab is cooked in the can, and there's not like a lot of excess moisture. But we are actually going to save everything. As you can see, it's just kind of nice, loose clumps of meat. There's not a lot of moisture. So, I'm going to start next with the vegetables. I have some onion, some bell pepper, some jalapeno, and it is a crab cake. It's not a vegetable cake, so really the main ingredient should be the crab. A lot of times you see crab cakes and they're full of vegetables or they're full of breadcrumbs, which I do have, but I use much less than most people. So I'm just going to do a quick chop on everything. We kind of went over some chopping skills in my last class, but you can see I'm just kind of cutting around the exterior of this bell pepper. Don't really want a whole lot of these seeds that are on the inside. You can see that I want it to be really small pieces, so I really want to do my best to keep all these little cuts as consistent and even, so that you can see I have just these perfect little squares from the bell pepper. But it doesn't have to be perfect. It's no wrong way to do this, as long as it all comes together. I have an oven going, it's at 350 degrees. I'm going to use that to cook the crab cakes for us later after we sear them. I also am going to show you another way to use the same crab cake meat, and we're going to put it in these mushrooms here. I have these mushrooms they're just regular mushrooms. I put a little salt and pepper and I kind of roasted them off, and we're going to put some crab meat on there and finish them in the oven, so we have some crab stuffed mushrooms. So, kind of just going to go off of based on how much crab I have, how much vegetable.
Is it that something that you're actually making for dinner?
Not today, but I do make this pretty regularly. So, that's enough bell pepper. I'm going to cut this onion up. And again, I kind of went over cutting an onion in our last little class, but I'm just going to show you real quick. And I kind of want the onion to be about the same size as the bell pepper, because I want them to cook at the same rate. So I'm going to start by, I have my two halves, you can see that I cleaned it off. I'm going to make a horizontal thing. And I'm not going to cut all the way through to the root end there. I'm going to leave a little bit of it attached. And that's going to hold the whole thing together while I do the rest of the cutting. To minimize the burning, the stinging of the eyes, I'm going to kind of work and cut the onion. The more surface area of the onion that's exposed, the more of that chemical is going to be in the air that's going to burn your eyes. So I try to keep it as together as possible until the last minute. So I'm going to do a little vertical slice. And then another slice but perpendicular. And you can see my finished product is these nice square pieces. Like so. So I've got some onion, I've got some bell pepper, and crab cakes. A good crab cake should have a little bit of heat to it, at least it does most of the time. So I'm going to add some jalapeno. Of course, this part could be omitted so that you don't have any of the spice, but I'm not really going to make it super spicy. You can see that I am setting aside all of the inner part with the seeds and this little membrane here. That's where most of the spice in any chili really resides, not necessarily in the flesh. The jalapeno still has a really great flavor even without any of the spice in it. So I'm just going to set that aside for now. What I like to do is set it aside, and then I'm going to make my recipe, and I'm going to taste everything at the end. And if I want more spice, I can come back to this, chop it up a little bit, and add it back in, and I'm going to have more of that jalapeno spice and jalapeno flavor. And again, I'm going to cut this very similar to how I did the bell peppers. I like to cook the vegetables that go into my crab cake just briefly, just to kind of take that raw edge off of it. So I have just a regular saute pan here. I'm going to put this on the fire, just let it start getting hot. It'll take a minute or two to get where I would like it while I finish slicing this. You can see also have kind of everything is very uniform and even. It's also a good idea when you're working with chilies to taste it, because depending on season, depending on where it came from, it could not be very spicy at all, or it could be extraordinarily spicy. Today, they're about medium. It's got a little bit of heat, but not overwhelming. All right. And I also have some parsley here. I washed and shook out this parsley vigorously. You rinse it off with water. I'll show you again. Just rinse it with water. And it's nice, it's all in a bunch already. And I know this is a bad habit because I work in a professional kitchen, but I just do this. At home you may not want to do that as much. Kind of do it over the sink a little bit, but you want to get some of that moisture out. I won't need all of this. Parsley, you know, a lot of people know parsley just as a garnish. They don't really consider it to be a valuable component in cooking. But parsley is a great aromatic, and it adds a different dimension to the food. It adds an herbaceousness and earthiness that you don't get from a lot of these other components. And when it comes to cooking, personally, I feel it's all about balance. Flavor should have balance, the dish should have balance. It's all about balancing out sweet, salty, bitter, sour, umami, everything, and even beyond that, because there's, you know, earthiness, and that's, you know, a bit of umami, you would say, is earthiness. But parsley is an underrated herb. And you don't need a whole lot of it. It is fairly potent. So I'm gonna go ahead and saute my vegetables. My pan is hot. I'm just gonna bring the pan over. Have just a little bit of cooking oil here. This is the extra virgin olive oil and canola oil blend. I'm gonna add my peppers and my onions. And just in case, I'm going to start with about half of the jalapeno, in case it gets spicier than I want it to be. You can see, get everything, and put it back on the flame. Give it a toss. Also have some salt and pepper right here. I'm going to get a little pinch of salt, a little pinch of pepper. Okay, now back to our crab meat. So you can see I've had not really much moisture. Sometimes there's a little bit more than that, but it's really not too bad. I'm going to add to this pan, I'm going to start with our wet ingredients that kind of hold all of the crab cake together. I have an egg, just a singular egg. You don't really need a lot, but I do like to use an egg in my crab cakes because, one, I do cook my crab cakes until they're hot, so I am going to be fully making sure the egg is fully cooked, but it kind of gives it a little bit of body and it holds everything together. Now I'm also going to add in there just going to whisk this egg up. Remember, I had that juice in there too, so all that nice liquid isn't going to waste. It's going to be in the crab cake. Now to this, I'm going to add a little breadcrumbs, and this is where a lot of restaurants get it wrong. You bite into a crab cake and you feel like you're eating a bread cake with a little bit of crab in it. I only add a tiny bit of breadcrumbs, really just to kind of fill in the gaps between the crab. So you can see, just about a cup of crab cake, a cup of breadcrumbs to maybe 4 cups of crab. So easily way more. And this is panko breadcrumbs. It's a Japanese style breadcrumb. It is very light and airy. It's great for adding. It has a great texture that's lighter than a lot of breadcrumbs because you can see that it's very light, not like a lot of other breadcrumbs you see. Yeah, it's like almost barely there. Now I've got my little breadcrumbs, my little egg. I like to add my breadcrumbs directly to my liquid beforehand so that the breadcrumbs kind of absorb the flavors, and that's going to be spread throughout and kind of make it homogeneous so that it's very even. Now, what some consider the most important part of the crab cake is a little bit of mayonnaise. This is just some regular mayonnaise. And I'm just going to add a couple of spoonfuls. This we may adjust later on. I also have here, this is a chili garlic sauce. This is from Hui Fong Foods, the same company that makes sambal. I think it adds a little great flavor. Or sambal and sriracha, I meant to say. This is the same company that makes sriracha. Sambal is another product that they make, made right here in California, coincidentally. This is all going to be mixed together, incorporated. Nice little mix there. I'm going to check my vegetables. As you can see, isn't quite, crazy cooked, but it's starting to, the onions are starting to get translucent, the bell peppers are starting to look soft. Everything's kind of going. I'm going to give it one more minute. And you see how beautiful and bright those colors are. That's important. You really want to have fun with it. You really want to have some nice bright colors. I'm also going to add some lemon juice and some Meyer lemon to this. Lemon juice is a great compliment. These are Meyer lemons, which are a little bit different than a regular lemon. They're not quite as sour. They're a little bit more aromatic. They have a very distinct kind of smell. And I cut this one in half. You can kind of take that and, oh, I'm sorry, I think I splashed you a little bit. But you can kind of smell it's a little bit different than a regular lemon. And I'm going to use a tool called a microplane to get the zest. I want to get the zest because the zest is where all the oils are, the citrus oils that are the most aromatic part. So I use this tool to get that part out, but the part just underneath is really bitter, so I don't want it. So I really want to just take the outside, and you can see I got a little bit coming off. You can see I'm just removing that very exterior. I'm going to just keep the lemon going. You don't have to get it perfectly, you know. You don't need every last little square inch of it. I'm going to do that twice here, because I like good Meyer lemon. It's going to add a lot of that citrusy kind of freshness to it. It's going to keep it very nice, light crab cake. Now I'm also going to use some of the juice of one of these lemons. So I'm just going to cut it in half, and I'm just going to use my hands to cup it, and I'm going to leave little gaps in my fingers, and I'm just going to squeeze, and I'm going to catch. There's not a lot of seeds in this lemon, but I'm going to catch what's there, you see? And if you get a little seed in there, because the bowl's so empty, you can go through and find it and pull it out. But these seeds are so small, I think you'd even notice it if you did eat it. So again, I'm just going to mix this up a little bit more. And again, those breadcrumbs are now absorbing all of that flavor. So it's going to be a great way to kind of make sure that it's all throughout. So right now my vegetables. Oh yeah, those look good. You see I started to get a little bit of caramelization on the bottom of the pan, which is good. Now I don't necessarily want to add this straight into here, because it is a little hot. So I'm just going to grab a pan. And dump it out of the pan. It is actually quite amazing how quickly this will cool down, sitting at room temperature when it's spread out on a pan like this. And it doesn't have to be perfectly cool, it just can't be sizzling oil, you know? So I'm just gonna let that cool off. I'm gonna go ahead and take my crab, and it's gonna go right in there. Have a rubber spatula. It's basically cool enough now that I can go in, especially with all the other cool components in here. So you can see I'm going to just scrape it off. Now, sometimes when you are making crab cakes, you have nice, real big, huge hunks of crab in the can. To make crab cakes, I buy a crab that has some smaller chunk to it, so I'm not as concerned about breaking it up. But I feel like a lot of the times people fall short is if they have big, beautiful, bunched pieces of crab, you spend a lot of time squishing it all up with your hands. So the key here is to very, very lightly kind of combine everything, but without crushing it. So I'm also going to add my parsley in here. And that's the other thing. I don't want to keep making more additions to this. I want to try to get everything into the bowl so that it's on the first time I mix it, boom, it's ready to go. So So I'm going to go ahead and add just a little bit of salt. And I know I'm not measuring this, and I haven't tasted it yet. So right now I'm just kind of making an estimated guess. I'm just using a little pinch. It's always smarter to add less at first because you can always add more. You can never take it back out. So I've now got what I feel is going to be enough, even below what I feel is going to be enough, in fact, so that I can add more if necessary. So I'm just going to use my fingers. Start incorporating. I got a nice homogeneous mix here. Gonna add just a touch more of the mayonnaise. And again, that's just to kind of bind everything together. Now, if you were doing this for guests and stuff, you could do this in your house up to a couple of days before. If you wanted to even freeze the crab cakes themselves, you could do this weeks before, so that you always kind of have them ready to go. You can see I have a nice homogeneous mix. What's really cool is because this crab is fully cooked and all the components in here are fully cooked, we can just go ahead and taste it. So why don't you just grab a little bit, go ahead and try it.
Oh, I don't eat fish or crab or seafood.
Oh, come on!
No, you knew that.
Excellent. What would you say, sir? Great. Doesn't really need. Some people may feel like it needs a little more salt, but I think it's good right there. So, from here, you have a couple options. As I mentioned earlier, I'm going to make some crab stuffed mushrooms. So I have here, these are some mushrooms that I just literally had the mushroom, and just pulled out the top, and I seasoned it with a little salt, a little pepper, and just a little oil, just like this, kind of just drizzled it and spread it around, and put it into a 350-degree oven for about 10 minutes, and they come out like this. And they could be cooked a little bit more, but they're pretty much exactly where I would want them. So I'm just going to go ahead and take a little crab meat, stuff it right on top. And with this, I don't try to worry about, one's bigger than the other because everything's fully cooked already. I'm not worried about making sure, foodborne illness is going to need to be cooked out, but just want to make them look nice and pretty. Now you can just throw them in the oven like this, or if you happen to have some cheese laying around, which I happen to have some sitting right here. Just gonna put some cheese on top. So I'm just going to throw this guy straight back into the oven. Now I have this cast iron pan over here. It's always important to wash your hands thoroughly. Now, to make just a regular crab cake, you can use a spoon or just eyeball it, but I like to use these dishers, they're called. They're ice cream scoops. And I like to make nice, consistent sized cakes. And you can see these crab cakes, they're almost falling apart when they're sitting here. And that is by design. I really want a crab cake that is more crab than anything else. I don't want a whole lot of binders, a whole lot of mayonnaise, a whole lot of breadcrumbs. It's all about the crab. And if they're a little fragile, then so be it. So after I've kind of portioned them out, I'll just use my hands and kind of make them nice and pretty looking.